Welcome to TORAHTALK, brothers and sisters. Welcome to TORAHTALk, brothers and sisters. Brothers
breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. People now.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the TORAHTALK show with Lew White and Mark Davidson.
The Sharp Sickle Series,
a Torah Institute production.
Hey, brother.
Hey, good morning.
Can you see me all right today?
Yes, you don't have one eye anymore.
Oh, that's
it's
good.
Great. You were all pixelated, and your audio was just going kind of like I am in the morning, you know.
I was going to say that I was just doing that to screw with you.
Oh, I see. Well, you tried 3 times then.
Yeah.
What I think it was all of our internet connections were messed up. Did you get my message from the shop? Yeah. It was just our internet. It was on our end. It was just going slow, and it couldn't handle even downloading anything, you know.
Wow.
So it's, anyway, another week.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So you're online in the shop now, are you?
Well, there's a connection, and we're going to, I have an email address there, but I don't want to use that one because I don't have time to really answer emails there, you know. But
that'd be handy, though, if you have some downtime. You can get online and do some tinkering.
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
You know, not much business. But,
do you find that, so it's just you and Bob now, is it?
Yeah, and Adam's helping a little, coming in and helping with customers, just a few hours a week, helping out. And it gives me an extra day that I can, attend to this. So I'm off today. I'm off, as far as I know. Actually, I will have to go over there, though, because there's some lights that need some attention. We had some lighting out front on the outside that was smoking. So they were getting old, and that's dangerous. So I'm having a little work on that. I have to work on those lights. But I might have to work a little on my day off now, you know. But I get off on Yom Shishi and every Shabbat, you know. So I get off those 2 days. It's really great.
Yeah. Are you getting any bites from the anyone interested in this?
There's been conversations, but people have come in and asked about it, you know. And the thing that makes it expensive is really the cost of the real estate, you know. You can buy a business for about 3 years worth of its profit, its net profit. But I think that's kind of silly because that's the way the going pricing is. But the real estate is, the thing that's costly. Most people don't own the real estate too. But we bought that 20 years ago. Actually, we didn't buy it. We've been paying on it. And, with all the taxes and little insurance payments that you have to pay, it actually stretches everything out. So you don't really hit the principal. It's just interest and all these other extraneous little leeches, I call them, that hang on. And it's just to keep you from actually building any wealth. It just keeps you kind of floating along. And I see the thing now as a game to kind of keep you shackled, and it keeps everybody under control when you own property.
Yeah.
So if you own property, you're shackled,
Yeah.
You're better not to own anything.
If you put the price right down, do you reckon it would sell quicker, or does Bob not want to do that?
Well, it's a matter of we can't. It was worth a lot more just 10 years ago. But now with this economy, real estate is in the tank, and it doesn't really matter. It could be half the price. Nobody can buy it. It's just not there. Yeah. And, if we sold it any lower at all, we wouldn't be able to pay the realtor commission and pay off the loan and have any extra at all to throw at some other things, because, see, the income that we get from that store is paying for, in my case, 2 other mortgages. I have to make this money to pay for 2 mortgages outside of that one. See, I've got 3 mortgages. So I'm about $1 million in debt total.
That's a shackle, isn't it?
Yeah. But that could end at any time,
Wow.
Yes, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well,
get a headache thinking about it.
Oh, I don't think about it. I just give it to Yahusha. See, I see everything. In fact, that's one of the things I wanted to mention this morning is it's the middle of the night for you, but a lot of people are saying, I can't handle all these demonic attacks. And, Phyllis was just talking about something that she was feeling so positive, and then something happened, and she said, I'm not going to let that get me down. And then the adversary comes along with another thing and says, well, that didn't get your attention? Well, watch this. And something else happens. And it's not so much, sometimes it's drama in others, and sometimes it's this or that, a circumstance. But what those things are the storms. And the storms of life cannot get us down, because we don't stand in our own strength. That's what we tend to do. We try to say, well, I'm handling this. I'm handling this. But you see, here's what the deal is. We can literally walk on water. Now, that's a figurative thing. Don't go out there and try that right now, anyway. But Yahusha allows us to walk on water and be above the storm and the waves, because we keep our eyes on Him and His strength. So we walk in His strength and not ours. So all these things that happen, I mean, Phyllis got a phone call yesterday, and I think this has caused her to have an illness that she has. All these things for years and years and years, people calling her and raking her over the coals over me being where I work, because I'm sent to outsiders. Some of us aren't. Well, we all are, but most people are not going to the outsiders. They're trying to fleece the sheep, or they're going to the choir and singing for them. I'm not so much singing for the choir. My understanding is Yahusha's use of my vessel is to teach people so that they become elders, and to look above the fray, and to see the long range. Where are we going? Who are we waiting for? And what's the objective? Well, it's love. That's the goal. That's the end point. That's when you get there. It isn't a place in time. It's a place in your heart. You get there when you reach that goal. It isn't knowledge. It isn't. We're walking in a world, figuratively, that's just we're running through mud. And I'm trying to. I'm not doing it. It's Yahusha using the vessels that we are in to go out and find the outsiders. Where are the outsiders? And I work in a place that is literally the it's the model for the world system. It's culturally the center point of what everything is focused on. The music, the idolatry, I mean, just the other day I was listening to a commercial on the radio where somebody won a football game. They call it the Super Bowl. It's referring to the stadium being a bowl shape. Anyway, these two teams that finally get to the very end point of the season, they get to compete with each other. They're the best teams. Well, one of them wins. Surprise. Anyway, then they put out these footballs, and they say, there's a limited edition of these footballs, and they're going to be gold embossed. They're going to have this emblazoned on them. The Super Bowl 2013 or whatever. These are idols. They're idols. People buy these idols, and there's a limited number of them, and they're on stands, and that's what they are. They're idols. Well, culturally, we're surrounded by the world system, and it's all idolatry. You know, they're people, they're musicians, they're politicians are idols. You know, in a lot of people's eyes. Well, you know, it's just, but all these things are all focused in the store that I work in. You know, I mean, Walmart would be another example too. I mean, you can go in there anytime there's a season like Valentine's Day or the Bunny Rabbit Festival or the sun solstice, Christmas. Yeah, you can go in there and you can satisfy your idolatry, you know, and serve your, you know, do your jumping through the hoops at the certain time. It's the signs and seasons that Paul was talking about. He said, I'm afraid for you, for you're keeping these days and years, and you're keeping these observances that you used to keep. And he's not talking about Yahuwah's festivals, which are the signals or the redemption plan, you know, the shadows. He's not talking about that. That's what the Christian teachers teach. They say, oh yeah, he's talking about that. He's not. He's talking about the things that they were doing before the days and the years and the certain times of the year that they do certain things. And the system, the world system is still doing that, you know. But we can walk on, going back to the other idea though, we can walk on water if we keep our eyes fixed on Yahusha's strength, on him, in us. And then these things can just happen, all this drama and all this nonsense. And we can just maintain ourselves and our composure. And we won't be affected by the stresses of the storm, you know.
Yeah.
But,
amazing. Yeah, we were kind of getting really frustrated this week because as I emailed you, I said the radio show got cancelled before it even started. And the ads that we were trying to put in the paper, they were cut off, and we're just like, you know, you just can't break through in this town. Nothing's happening. Every avenue you try just gets shut, and I was just getting so frustrated. And Amy was like, well, at least Yahusha's let us know pretty clearly that that's not what he wants, you know, because we got no choice. That's door shut. And then this afternoon, this lady who had given us some furniture a few days ago and a month ago as well, just because she was cleaning out, she comes down and she said, oh, I noticed it was Brandon's birthday yesterday, and I thought, oh, here we go, she's going to ask us why we didn't, you know, do anything about it. And she didn't, but then she's been in and out of the AOG, the circus down the road, and she's had a hard life, and she's got a son, and then she just came in, and she wanted to know, I forget how it started now, but it just unraveled, and we just ended up telling her about Yahusha, and she got a CD, one of our CDs with the music on it. She took a Fossilized Customs home, and I said to Amy afterwards, because we were talking to her for over an hour, and it was like talking to a sponge who's just taking it in, like it was somebody who was really desperate and wanted to know what the hell is going on. Why isn't it working? She's been crying out to God for you know, answers. And I said, well, you know, I said to her, what if you were, you know, lying next to somebody and they called you by the wrong name, you know? And I said, that's what it's like for him. And there was lots and lots of conversation, and she wants to watch some of the YouTube clips. And afterwards I said to Amy, I really feel much better now. This is what it's about. Because when Yahusha does it, it's a real person right in front of you who's interested. Whereas when you're trying to make things happen and push things out into the airwaves that maybe isn't the right time, you just feel so frustrated. And yet right at the end of the week, right before Sabbath, even the lost, what was it called? The Stone Covenant.
Lost Lunar Stone?
Yeah, we gave her one of those. I said, this is what you need to teach your son. That's how it all started, because she said, my son doesn't want to take the Christian education class at the school. Is your children doing that? I said, no way. So, and she said, why? And I said, well, we were in this Christian scene for 20 odd years. And I said, we were worship leaders and did all that stuff. So, hey, sister.
Hey.
Well, how'd you know I was here?
Your husband gave it away.
Oh. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How you been?
I'm great. I'm blessed. How's Amy?
She's really good. Really good. She's been getting different times with the different children now, because the older ones are off to the little school down the road, and she's getting a little bit of time with the Aliyah and Micah on different days. So
That's wonderful. Is this the school you were talking about? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Is it a Christian school or?
No, it's just a little state school, but there's only 100 kids from kindergarten to year 12.
Oh.
It's like
sorry, I didn't get to hear all that. I'll listen to it later. Well, it's good to see you. Give Amy my love.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks for
You
dropping
too.
by. It's always great when the wife comes by.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I forgot what I was going to say, but
Well, my point was just that it's much better when Yahusha moves, because I was going to say to you, how do you? And I was talking to Chris about it earlier in the week, and we were saying, how do you make people conscious? Is there something you do? Do you get frustrated when you see all this? Like you said, you're right in the middle of this, the culmination of idolatry, and you just can't seem to wake anybody up.
Yeah, I've tried to take ads out in magazines and newspapers and things, and they shut you down. They say, "Oh, I can't put this in there. We don't want to have anything to do with that." And I've tried to put it in these newspapers where the other people do the same sort of thing, but it's just that, like, I'm singled out as being, oh no, we can't let that person put his book into our newspaper. And I'm going, wow, this is advertising that, and I haven't been able to really do any advertising at all. But what happens is
you can't even advertise a book.
No. The shop that I'm in, though, is going, it has people coming through it that are not so many close by, but people from distances. They come in because they hear about it. They come in, and they come from out of town, even in other countries sometimes, and they just sort of flow through. And there's incidences where they come up to the counter, they buy a book and a few CDs, or DVDs, I mean, and articles that they just get for free, and they pick them up and then they take them elsewhere. I don't know what's happening to those things, but sometimes I'll get into conversation with people. But you see, they can't shut me down. I don't work for some man who wants me to shut my mouth, except for Yahusha. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he wants me to just shut up, and I do. But when the person asks a question, I answer that question specifically, and then I wait for another question, and sometimes it becomes a long thing. When the person asks a question, I answer that question.
When the person asks a question, I answer that question. When the person asks a question, I answer that question.
When the person asks a question, I answer that question specifically. And then I wait for another question, and sometimes it becomes a long thing. And the people actually get so excited, like you experience. It just goes on and on and on. And I don't force them. I let them draw it out. And the truth doesn't need defense or even justification or footnotes. I mean, the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. You know. Yeah. Well, I mean, what good is a footnote that references itself to another book written by a man? Well, you give them the scripture. You know.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
The word of Yahuwah is living and active, and that's where the power is. It's in the scriptures. You know.
Yeah. I know there's an endless line of insults and abuse and persecution coming at you, but do you still get a lot of encouragement, and like, do you hear news of people who have been just woken up and we've been in religion and this is our answer, and you still get a lot of things like that?
Outsiders, yes, that have never been able to even approach the subject are going, wow, I knew something was missing, and I couldn't get it from that steeple or any of those people that are in the Nicolaitan club. You know, they ordain one another. Like, I'm ordaining you. Well, it's just a dude. You know, or dudes don't ordain other dudes. Dudes don't ordain other dudes. Dudes don't ordain other dudes. You know. That's not. The orders and the ordination comes from Yahusha, or it doesn't get there. Oh, you can make stuff up and get dressed up in little things and say, well, I've got this outward sign of our authority.
Yeah.
Well, it's not anything at all except a construction. Yeah. It's an artificial thing. You know, it's just a shell. The reality is in the man's heart or the woman's heart. It's the living speech of Messiah, because he speaks, or if he's not there, he can't speak. You know, but the love is the sign. If you, and that's the thing. See, when people are real, when I talk to people at the shop, they're just drinking up, like you say, they're hungry like a sponge. They just soak it up. This one woman, I don't know if I mentioned this or not to you in one, but she asked me about this shirt because I'm wearing evidence on me, and sometimes they say, "What's that blue thing?" And I go, "Well, that's to remind me of something." Oh, well, that sounds practical, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell them if they want to know. I don't even push that. I say, "Well, what is it reminding you of? That looks like it's pretty serious."
It's four of them.
So, yeah. So anyway, and this one woman was a very astute, educated woman. She said, "Well, you know, those kind of people are already interested in knowledge, and they want to go." She said, "What is the symbol on your shirt?" And I said, "Oh, this is a wonderful thing." And I explained it to her, and I said, it's actually read in the opposite direction from what we're used to. And I told her there's two letters that are repeated, so she could see that. So the symbol started to make sense to her a little bit. And then I said, this is the equivalent of our letter Y, you know, and this is an H or a hey, and this is a U, you know, oo, and this is another H, and it's pronounced Yahuwah. And she was going, well, and then I told her where it came from, you know, the Sinai and the scriptures, you know, the original scriptures. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
It's just so exciting, because you never know what item people are going to be drawn to see and wonder about. And because it is a wondrous thing, you know, to see the origin of something. Without all the filters, you know. And I got to talk to her about the mutilation through the Greek and the Latin, and we talked a little bit about the covenant being given at Sinai and how he would have inscribed his name like this. But you know, when Yahuwah was bringing him out of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, he had to get Egypt out of them, you know.
That was amazing what you said last week about the 10 Commandments. If you just keep reading them over and over again, it will change your heart. Because we were going through one point this, I forget which day it was this week, and I was laying there and just got a bit distressed. I'm thinking, I was looking at the children and I'm thinking, you know, I started to worry. Look at the world, you know, how do you raise your children? They're out in the street playing with the other kids and stuff, and you look at the other kids and they don't care about the covenant or anything like that. None of the parents do. This town's very anti-religious, and I started to worry, and it was really amazing. I heard Yahusha's voice, like it wasn't just my own head, and he said, there's only 10 things you have to teach them. I mean, obviously there's lots more, but he said there's 10 things that you can teach them that will give them everything they need. And I went, yeah, it would teach them how to love. 4 of them will teach them how to love him, and the other 6 will teach them how to love each other. And so I told Amy about that, and I said, we don't have to worry. If we teach them this and teach them what they mean and everything surrounding it, and basically the Torah, and ever since then it just left me the worry. I just thought that's all I need to teach my children as far as, and they'll be okay. Everything will work if they follow these commands.
You know, there's so much in those 10 commandments when you read them in their full context and everything. One of the things that pops out in meditating upon His Word, which is the 10 Commandments, the name and the covenant itself, the 10 Commandments. In the midst of all of that, He says something about that He's going to punish those to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me. And that means to love Him less than the world. Well, the 3rd and 4th generations. In other words, what appeared to me in understanding was that while the sins of the fathers, even those dead great-grandfathers of ours and great-grandmothers of ours, those sins that they committed are still rattling around, and their consequences in the world, in the people themselves. And I'm not talking spiritual. I'm talking spiritually and physically, you know, in the real world. And this echo chamber, this thing we could call the internet an echo chamber, you know, with the Hall of Shame and all that. It's an echo chamber. It'll never stop. You know, I could, you know, sell the store, be away from it for 12 years, and the echo chamber would still be going, you know. Yeah. And but what I'm saying is the sins that everyone has committed because they don't obey the 10 Commandments is echoing around in the world and rattling around. That our existence is walking in this giant mud bin, and we're slopping around in this world. And our children are there too. But if everybody stopped right now and they all started obeying the commandments, this echo chamber would continue to the 3rd and 4th generation, and then it would stop. Isn't that wild? In other words, the stuff is still going to go on. But I thought that that's what He was really saying in that commandment, when He was saying that He would, you know, we can look at that, and I'd like to look at the words themselves and see what that looks like. Let's say, let's go to Deuteronomy 5. We could go to Exodus 20 or Deuteronomy 5. It says, all right, let me look at a different translation here. Yeah. All righty. Now, in the verse 9 of Deuteronomy 5, well, let's back up into verse 8. It's basically the first commandment is you have no other mighty ones against my face. I'm Yahuwah your Elohim, you know. And then he says, you do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of which is in the heavens above. Well, that would be related to the thing that they had just experienced in Mitzrayim, the Egypt. When they were in Egypt, they were taught about things that were images in the heavens above, and that would be an abomination to him. Or which is in the earth beneath, which would be fish, you know, and things, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your Elohim, am a jealous owl visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. And that just jumped out at me, and it made me understand that the sins of all that they've committed, they're not spiritually bestowed upon the children. They're in the world system, and this causes this turbulence, you know. And that's why, as we mentioned before, governments have to keep making laws to fence in this and wall in and restrain the population from all the disorder. And the disorder comes from the lack of these 10 commandments being taught and absorbed into the culture and the people. And this is the very thing the dragon is keeping from the children. And this is why they won't let you put it in the newspaper, and why they won't let you broadcast it on the radio. You see this? It's this thing that's making the difference. And the iniquities of the fathers, the crookedness of the fathers, is visited upon the children to the third and fourth generations. It's like an echo chamber. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever looked at it like that or not.
No, I haven't. I just thought of this. It's a slightly side topic, but I don't know if it's just because I'm down in Australia, but I'm so sick of seeing these posts on Facebook about Obama taking everyone's guns off them. Are you passionate about your guns? You probably don't even have any guns, but it's like why? It's like people pick out a certain topic. It's like, you know, the end is coming. You know, all sorts of hell is coming, and yet we still keep going on about our specific details. What's that about?
Well, that's just one example, of nonsense that we want our freedoms. You know, the sensible person that is if you're disarmed, then Nazi Germany disarmed their population before they came down on them. You know, back in the late 30s, they just disarmed the population. And then they started mowing down the people that opposed their regime, their government. Regime means government. It's not an evil thing. It can be good or bad. But that's what they do.
Yeah.
And what this nation is doing is thinking that it can exterminate all evil and it's actually what it is. It's the elitists that are running this particular country, and probably many countries, are thinking that they can make a utopian world. They want it to be like a utopia where everyone is productive, happy, peaceful, and exactly the same. There's no differences, and everybody is accepting of one another, and they are accepting of one another's iniquities and abominations, but they are not accepting of people who are decent, that live according to the Torah, you know, the commandments. They really don't like people like that, because that's against everything that they stand for. And they want worship, because you see, the Ten Commandments forbids you to worship the government or anything like that. But they encourage you to worship whatever you want to worship, except the true Creator, Yahuwah. And but one of the things that going back to while I'm working on seminars pretty much every day a little bit, that last seminar on the zodiac and that it was a stronghold, that's something that they were exposed to, the Israelites were exposed to in Mitzrayim, or Egypt. They spent 430 years or so there, and that culture was ingrained in them, and that's why they made a golden calf at that particular time of the year in the spring, the Taurus, or the bull. See, the bull, it was in the sky, you see. And so they made this bull, and this was so enraging to Yahuwah that many people died, 3,000, I believe it was, that died on that day. But he's trying to extricate the people from that land, and then he has to get that land out of them, the Mitzrayim the Egyptian thinking. And the zodiac, can you imagine, now that I've got evidence in that seminar of the Egyptian depiction of the zodiac. I mean, there's a woman, and then there's the zodiac around her, and that's the Egyptians' form of that. Well, can you imagine Yahuwah instructing Aharon and Moshe and Israelites to, now when you build that bowl, I want you to inscribe the zodiac all around the edge of that. And I want that zodiac to be, I want these animals to be put in my tent in a certain way. You know, that's nonsense. And there's Nazarene out there writing books, people, Nazarene reading books and saying, oh, the zodiac, that's it. This is a special hidden secret.
Are you serious?
Wow. It's just nuts. And I'll tell you what, Ethelbert William Bullinger, this brilliant, blazing scholar from the 1870s, 1860s, that wrote many books, he fell for that stuff too.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, now you know that the synagogues that were built with all these decorations and all these mosaics, they would put images in there, and they would put the zodiac in the floors. Well, they're all destroyed. I mean, where's the zodiac standing in the land of Israel in a synagogue where you know, it was built during the early part of the millennium, or let's say after Yahusha. See, the thing with this, let me back up. The dog's over here trying to get under the thing. Here's the thing. You got the temple destroyed in the year 70 CE. All right, the temple's destroyed. And then the synagogues all over the area, the region, began to become more important than ever. The synagogues being the buildings. I mean, the word synagogue, it's a Greek word, and it refers to the Knesset, the assembly. It's the people themselves is what it really is. But it started to become thought of as the building, you know. And the building is not the synagogue, but they call them synagogues, you know. So these ruins are found, and they say, look, there's the walls, and look at this floor. And in the floor, there'll be a mosaic of the zodiac. The place is utterly destroyed, laid waste, razed to the ground. And yet, there's the zodiac, you know, in the synagogues, the buildings, as I'm saying. But what is that saying? You know, I mean, you wouldn't have such a thing in his temple, you know?
Yeah.
So let's not think that the zodiac has any place in our lives. You know, it's just something I just wanted to say. He woke me last night, and I was remembering all those zodiacs that were in the floors of these buildings that they met in, and I thought, would he have put it in his temple? No.
That inaugural speech you posted was interesting the other day, wasn't it? He was letting America know that they've been going back to idolatry, moving away from the Creator.
Yes, He did. I added a little bit to that in my comments. I said the augurs, the inaugurating, the augurs were the ones who were priests of the pagan faith, and they would track flights of birds to, you know, who interpret omens, you know, and relegate it to the regime that's going into power. So inauguration itself is actually a pagan term. It's identifying pagan priesthood, you know. So perfect. Yeah, but that speech was great. I'd like to see him as president, really. You know, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. It was really interesting what he was saying about the Israelite people.
Jonathan Kahn. You know, when I was watching that speech about, you know, at the breakfast, it reminded me of Stephen. Although Stephen wouldn't use some of the terms he used, you know, like God, what? You know, but I don't condemn people for that. I just say, well, Stephen wouldn't have said that, but I don't even know if Stephen had that kind of a demeanor to him, but he was he reminded me of Stephen when he was standing there talking to the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about Stephen?
No, not very often. He was full on, wasn't he?
Wow.
I just can't imagine having massive boulders thrown at your head. That'd just be...
He was such a blazing, spirit-filled man.
Yeah.
And we don't read much about him. I mean, he was there to do something in Scripture at Acts chapter 7, and he basically dominates Acts chapter 7. Luke wrote all of his words down that he spoke, and it's just like what Jonathan Cahn was saying. You know, the same sort of thing about, well, you did this, and Israel did that, and these symbols were given to you, or these warnings were given to you. We have him coming forth to speak to us today. I mean, Jonathan is a prophet, because not that he's a prophet, but the prophecy is Yahusha that's in Jonathan. It's Yahusha speaking. Yeah. That's the identification of what we're really seeing there. Just like he spoke through Stephen. Yeah.
That form of warnings or judgments or things that were happening in the world, the whole harbinger thing he was talking about, do you go along with that as far as the signs that he was talking about?
I didn't understand the word. Did you say harp?
Harbinger, wasn't it? He wrote a book called Harbinger or something?
Yes, the Harbinger, yeah.
Yeah.
The Harbinger of Doom or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the symbols are all there. You know, the sycamore symbols, and well, let's rebuild with bricks, fire bricks, and yeah, all these things are being spoken, and Jonathan, his ears were open to what Scripture teaches on that subject, and it's just defiance. It's defiant disobedience. You know, we received a wrathful outpouring of, you know, like the 2 towers were destroyed in New York City, and our leaders just stand up there and say, "We will rebuild," and that's just exactly what it said in the Scriptures that Israel said. You know, and he nailed it. He was right.
Amazing. Oh, I think I'm out of questions. I'm out of questions. Yeah, that was amazing. So you're talking about the what was the word? Is it syncretism? No, pluralism. Next seminar?
That's pretty much the plan. Next time we want to just touch on that and maybe refine it a little bit, but the first video was pretty rough, and we'd like to remake that one. It's whether or not we're going to coexist in camaraderie and brotherhood and with people who are Buddhists and so forth and so on. We have to we're sent to them. I have witches and sorcerers and Buddhists that come in all the time in the store, and I tell them out of love and kindness that they're embedded in some nonsense, you know, that stuff's all made up. It's just man-made, and it may be ancient. See, and a lot of people think if something came from a long time ago, then it's important and that it has relevance. But you know, I have this one dear man whose heart is really against the truth, and he's a Buddhist. They think they've got it, you know, but they're offering donuts to a little Gohanzen, and oh, it's so crazy, you know. I mean, the box is made out of wood that some man made. It's just like what Scripture says. You took this log and you carved the log, you cut it into this shape, and then you bow down to it and says, "Help me." Didn't you see that you made it with your own hands, and that you used part of it to warm yourself in the fire? You know. Yes. And well, please wake up. You know, how do you reach these people? Yeah. Well, you do it little by little, incrementally. You just say, "Well, this is nonsense," and just hearing it, they'll say, "Well, he just doesn't believe." And then maybe one day when they're opening their little Johansen, and doing their little namaste with their hands and bowing down to the box, maybe they'll go, what? What am I doing?
Does he hear me?
Oh man, you might as well, just pick an object. I mean, why not pick your printer? Your printer's a lot more complex.
Yeah.
Open your printer lid and start talking to it.
Yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do such a thing?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's wicked, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, it's just against, the first 3 commandments,
Mm. Yeah. A mate on Facebook said he'd like to know how the circus gets around "My kingdom is not of this earth." If our hearts are now the ark or the throne upon which he is seated and his law is inside it, then has his reign already begun? Did the harvest begin 2,000 years ago because the barley was ripe at the Passover and a new day began, but it is the long day equals 2 days, 2,000 years at the end of it? That's interesting. No more work. So has his reign already begun?
Well, the simplest answer to that is the best answer, Occam's razor, The answer to that is absolutely yes. The kingdom, the reign of Yahuwah has begun, but not in its fullness. We haven't been reborn yet. We've been begotten. And he is growing in his body. And we are living stones making up a spiritual house, a temple, a hekel, So we are his body. But a lot of times people want to analyze for themselves and get answers. And that's fine to ask questions, but there's things that we can't know because they aren't told to us. They're not revealed, and they're not even for us to even worry about because they're not anything that we're endowed with the mission to understand. But we make up a spiritual house, and he operates in that house doing this and that with each body part. And the objective isn't about us understanding, because when Abraham did such and such, he didn't know it was going to be written down, and it would have serious significance to it. And Moshe and so forth, when he would write things down, and prophets that spoke in Yahuwah's name, they didn't know what the stuff really meant and what it was going to point to. They just knew something was important and it had to be recorded in this particular way. And sometimes they were parables and so forth. But they didn't know either. See, they didn't have any idea. We're looking back and we're seeing the significance of them. And there's probably more depth to them we are yet to find, and connections. But for people to dwell all about that and not go out into the outside and reach the outsiders, instead just churn inside themselves over all these little questions and attack each other. You're not doing this, and what are you doing? Oh no, he didn't say that. He didn't say that's what we were to do. He didn't say, now you sit back and think about everything here, and when you get it all straightened out, you go out and tell everybody. What? We all don't have the picture. See, one of us gets a little piece of the picture, and another one gets another piece of the picture, and they just walk in that little piece that they've got. But the whole body, all over the earth, is doing something that he's operating in. If I'm walking in muddy areas of the world, some other part that's in a cleaner zone shouldn't be going, get out of that mud. What are you doing? I've got to be in the mud. I might be a foot. You might be a nice clean back of a hand or something, and I'm feeling your back of the hand on my face. Ow. Don't hurt me. Don't whip me, bro. Don't judge me, bro. Don't tase me either. Yeah. I'm getting tased. But I know that some other people are getting much, much much more ferocious persecution.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me feel good either. I'm not thinking, oh, well, I'm not getting killed. I'm not bleeding yet. I might be bleeding at some point, but the thing of it is, we're body parts, and I don't understand why I'm where I'm at. Wouldn't I like to be out of there? I tell Phyllis I try to not tell her this, but I say, Phyllis, I hate that store. I don't want to go. And I do. I go. And because I'm supposed to be there until I'm not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And you have to do what you do. And each one of us, and a lot of us are still in training. And I feel like I'm still in training too. When we reach the end of our training, then we'll be more useful still. But what are we being trained to do? Well, teach people how to love.
Yeah.
Not anything beyond that. And we can't use a different methodology. Like, use the zodiac. That'll teach him love. I don't think it will. It'll make him mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, don't make him mad.
Yeah.
Just do what he says. And do what you have to do. Some people have to go into forests and talk to people that have never heard anything at all. We have a lot to overcome, though. I mean, what the words that he speaks through us, we're sending them into hearts of people right now all over the world, and they've got all kinds of strongholds. I wonder when they're going to get to the Trinity. You know, when are they going to talk about the Trinity?
We've already covered that. That was episode 36. That was episode 36.
Yeah. You just find that teaching in Scripture for us, and we'll just study that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really find that. But I think it's at the end of Matthew, isn't it? No, it isn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever the problem is, the strongholds are endless. There's just no end to these things. And the people have been programmed with all this outside stuff. But we're sent to outsiders that don't know anything, too. The teachers sometimes are waking up. I've mentioned before some of these retired Christian teachers call me on the phone and at the shop, and they say, electric leyline, well, what's that? And then I got this book. Where'd you get this information? I needed this decades ago. You know, I had a steeple.
Yeah.
They know what the steeple is.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever the aspect is. I wasn't immersing people in the right name. I was using some nonsense. You know, there's so many things.
Yeah.
But his name is important, you know.
Yeah. I think you've kind of answered this question, but I've put a lot of stress on the fact that I've never really immersed anybody. Like a call to immerse, go out and, you know, immerse people in the name of it, you know, and never immersed anybody. You know, why, you know, I'm ready, waiting, Father, send people. I'm ready to immerse people. Do you think like that, or do you just think, well, I'm here to sow seeds, and, you know, do you follow them up and try and make sure they get immersed, or do you really just leave everything to Yahusha?
I leave everything to Yahusha. And on occasion, there will be somebody that will just be so intense that they say, I want you to immerse me. That's what bothers me the most, is when they want me out of all the people on the planet. Because that's the point where I think that their heart's not right. And it isn't because I'm thinking of myself as overly vile, which I do consider myself vile. It's only the spirit.
You're not alone.
Oh, I know.
It's encouraging.
When people look to one person as something special in any way, that's a danger sign. And I tell them, you know, it's probably most important for them to make sure that they don't do this with me involved. They should go into the water and call upon the name for deliverance. And don't worry about cleaning up. Just go and do it. And call upon the name as you understand it right now. And you'll probably get more understanding about the name later. And lots of other details will fall into place. You don't have to have all this stuff. And a lot of people will go back and re-immerse themselves because they were thinking about a W at the time they were immersed. And I tell them, that's not important. That's your understanding at the point of immersion. That's why you know something now. He's teaching you inside you. But now if you were immersed in the J-name, then I would definitely say, yes, that's not anything like his name.
No.
It's nothing like his name.
J-E-S-U-S.
So go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead and get immersed in the name Yahusha. God is our deliverance. But as far as the technical aspects of that, but they can be with someone if they want, and they can be with an elder if they want, but an elder is not in any way required, although there is an example in Scripture, where Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch was trying to struggle with Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 53. Oh, that's so amazing. Chapter 53 is kind of a mini picture of the deliverance, of how we were delivered, and how our sins or our transgressions are covered by the blood of the Lamb. Yeshayahu 53. And Philip was explaining that to him, and then he went on to explain who it was about, because that's what the Ethiopian eunuch's heart was burning to know. I want to know who this is. Is this the prophet, or is it someone else? And Philip explained Yahusha to him. And then he said, well, here's water. Let me be immersed in his name. And that was for the remission of his sins. And everybody listening right now, if they have not been immersed in the name of Yahusha, then all they have to do is read Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 3, and Acts chapter 4, especially Acts chapter 4, verse 12. Acts 4:12. There is no other name given among men under heaven by which we must be saved or delivered. And then read Yeshayahu or Isaiah 53. And go to the water and say, I have not kept your covenant, Abba, Yahuwah. I submit my vessel for your use. I will promise and pledge myself from this day forward, this moment forward, for you to possess me and sit on the throne of my heart. And go under the water, call upon the name of Yahusha for your deliverance, and say, he is your king. And come up out of the water a new creation, an Israelite. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And you'll be not sorry. Huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You'll be not sorry.
Israelite.
You'll be not sorry for anything, actually. Yeah. Not sorry. But we're not serene. That's what that word is. Not serene means the watchers or the watchmen or the guardians. And what is it that not serene are guarding? The word and the name, the Torah. His name and his word are above all. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so important because there's so many believers floating around with all these opinions, and if you say to them, "Oh, have you been immersed?" then you've just been disconnected, unfriendly, disconnected.
Yeah, if they haven't been immersed, then they're not sealed.
Yeah.
Not sealed under the covenant, so they're not protected. They can think all they want. They can run around and try to acquire more knowledge, but they'll get a lot more knowledge faster with the Messiah. The mind of Messiah will come into them and take control of their vessel, and they will be able to serve him and not worry about so many of the other little details that they've been searching for. Because he will open their minds to the scriptures. Just like he did those two that were on the road to Emmaus, right? The day of the resurrection. Later that day, these two men were walking to Emmaus, and he revealed himself to them and opened their minds to all the scriptures. One of them's name was Cleophas, I think, or Cleophas.
I was speaking to my son the other night about something to do with having Yahusha in you. I can't really remember now, but we were talking about immersed, and then he just out of the blue he said, "Oh, when can I get immersed?" And I said, "Oh, you probably need a bit more understanding because he's 7 years old. I said, you probably need a bit more understanding first. But then when I walked away afterwards, I thought, well, a couple of weeks ago you were saying that people can be, spirit-filled or have Yahusha in them, and then immersion is just something you do in obedience. So if that was your son, say, what is it? Like, you don't go and immerse children, do you? It's got to be something that... What are your thoughts on that? Would you, if your son came to you and said, I want to get immersed, would you be inclined to say, oh, you're a bit young, you don't really understand the concept yet? Or
I think that, personally, how old is he?
7.
7. The idea of sin is hard for me to imagine a 7-year-old to comprehend thoroughly, but they do have a very deep grasp of what's right and what's wrong. And if he has received the spirit of Yahusha, and he's compelled to ask his father, I'd like to be immersed, then I would just go ahead and do it and talk to him about it and pledge his life. He can make a pledge and maybe remember that moment by reminding him of it often from over the next weeks and months and years, and say, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember all that? And that way his mind will go back all the time and he'll have a firm grasp on that. I can remember things like when I learned to tie my shoe. I remember that. That's unusual. It's just a moment in time that you remember. And this is a very important moment. But the thing of it is, bar mitzvah is a Hebrew term that refers to a person who is a son of the commandments, the son of the teachings, and bar mitzvah. Bar means son, and mitzvah means the rulings or the teachings, the commandments. And if he's a son of the commandments, that means that he's reached the age. And I'd say typically it's between 12 and 13, somewhere in that region. 12 and 13 would be the traditional time, but there is no scriptural basis for a scriptural time. All we really can do is glean the idea that Yahusha became of age when he was 12 years old, and he was sitting among the teachers of the Sanhedrin, the Torah teachers, and having disputations and conversations about the Torah, and they were amazed at his knowledge when actually he is the one that gave them the commandments. This little 12-year-old that they were looking at had the mind and the presence of the name. Because you remember the Shekinah is the dwelling, the nesting place of the name. And the Magi that saw the Shekinah that was moving and guiding them, this is where it settled over the house where the Messiah was in, because the name was there. Well, the name was in the presence of the Sanhedrin when Yahusha was 12 years old, and that's very interesting because the time that he was there was really his visitation. In some ways, he fulfilled the covenant, the prophecies, the prophecies that he would anoint the temple, And the temple was where he was at. He was in the temple itself. So his presence being in the temple meant that the name of Yahuwah was in the temple,
That's amazing.
And that's what that was about. I don't think it was much. His age was probably significant for the men that were there, because they would go, oh, well, this is just an 11-year-old. We really have no business talking to him. But their interest was to teach him the mitzvah, the commandments, because he was 12. But little did they find out, they didn't probably even realize it then, that he was teaching them. The name has anointed the temple.
How wonderful.
He will come to his temple. In the prophecy, I can't remember where it is, but it says he would anoint the temple. He would come into the temple. And that's what that was really about.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Boy, that would be a great seminar.
Mm.
Yeah, there's so many things.
The name is in the
But,
temple.
Yeah, but there's like I say, the way that he teaches me about things is to overcome strongholds, and that isn't so much a stronghold, but it is very important. Strongholds are other things, the false teachings and things that are keeping us from obeying, more fully, in a full way, keeping from doing things that are upsetting to him. See, we like the birthday cakes and birthday candles. Well, not us, but the world system loves that. And they like to make idols and footballs with gold embossed things and put them on a plant and stick them on a shelf and go, look at that. I was at that game. And they know all about every player and who scored, but they don't know the commandments. How can that be? Things that are eternal, they don't know. Because what are we going to come out of the world with? What exactly are we going to come out of the world with? We aren't going to come out of the world with our shirts or our pants. We're going to come out of the world with what's written on our hearts. The treasure that we've stored away in our heart, and the most treasured thing, and Proverbs will back this up, is the commandments. In Ecclesiastes, or Koheleth, the preacher, if you read Ecclesiastes, it says the end of the matter. This is the end of the matter. You can fill the world with books, but this is the end of the matter. To keep the commandments of Yahuwah, and that's it. And that's the end of the matter, So, and what do they teach us? Well, they teach us love. How do you want me to love you? Keep my commandments. Love me and keep my commandments. I mean, he says it over and over and over. I think I've got a little bumper sticker here that says that. What? And who is he? Well, here he is.
Yahuwah.
Yeah, and here's his commandments. The short form, anyway. The Torah of Yahuwah.
They look nice. Those are nice and shiny.
Are they? Are they too shiny?
No, I just meant the bookmarks look really nice.
Oh, I think they're shiny on both sides. They're bookmarks, and you can also take these commandments, and let's say you've got a door.
Yeah.
And you can put them next to the door on the doorpost, or near the doorpost, and then when you walk in and when you walk out, you can go, oh, you did not cast the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to ruin. And then, and you can put them on every doorpost and on your gates, You can just write them. He said, write them on your doorposts and on your gates. I think that's Deuteronomy chapter 6.
Brilliant.
Yeah, teach them to your children.
Yeah. How did your seminar with the name written in stone, how did that all go? That was last weekend, wasn't it?
That seminar really led me into some interesting places. It was called The Stones Cry Out. The Stones Cry Out. And we talked about the name. That's what was being cried out. The Sovereign of Esteem. If you read, everybody's familiar with Psalm 23. It says, the Lord is my shepherd. It doesn't say that. That would be saying B-A-A-L is my shepherd. But it says Yahuwah Roi. That would be Yahuwah is my shepherd. Well, we all know that one. The valley of the shadow of death. And that's talking about our death, dangerous places that we might go, which is the most dangerous place is death. But anyway, go to Psalm 24. Wow, let's read it.
Yes.
What? This is so amazing. This psalm has just been jumping up in my heart. I just love the Psalms because they feel like clean water. I feel like I'm washing when I read these. Psalm 24. Oh, this is a good one. The Psalm 24, beginning at verse 1. The earth belongs to Yahuwah, and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. For he has founded it upon the seas, and upon the waters he does establish it. Who does go up to the mountain of Yahuwah? And who does stand in his set-apart place? That's a question. Who goes up to the mountain of Yahuwah, and who stands in his set-apart place? Here's the answer. He who has innocent hands and a clean heart, who did not bring his life to naught and did not swear deceivingly, he receives a blessing from Yahuwah and righteousness from the Elohim of his deliverance. This is the generation of those who seek him, Yaakov, who seek your face. Salah. That means listen. This is very important. It's getting better. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and let the sovereign of esteem come in. Oh, and here's the question. Who is the sovereign of esteem? Yahuwah, strong and mighty. Yahuwah, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates. Even lift up, you everlasting doors. And let the sovereign of esteem come in. You know? Let him come in. All right. Listen to this. Who is this sovereign of esteem? Yahuwah of hosts. He is the sovereign of esteem. Salah. See? Salah is a word that a lot of people see, and it means something that's lifted up even more highly. It means to say it louder, because it's very important. Isn't that wonderful? Where's the gate? Well, the gate is not your door in your house. The gate is your heart, you know, and the doorposts of your heart. You know, that's where the blood of the Messiah is covering you. And if he's living in your heart, then you've opened your heart to his presence, and his name is in you. That's why I was putting his name in my shirt. I can't put the name in my shirt like that to make it happen. His name comes into a person, and he dwells in them like a temple. You know, it's so amazing. But that psalm is talking about this very thing. If you meditate on that psalm, it says, this is the generation of those who seek him, Yaakov, which is Israel, who seek your face, Salah. And it's the everlasting doors are the everlasting hearts that he dwells in, because we're everlasting temples. You know, our bodies are going to go away, but he's going to give us new clothing. You know, but what we store in our hearts is everlasting. You know.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, Psalm 24.
The word is amazing.
I don't know how in the world Daoud knew all these things, if he even comprehended it, but that man's heart must have been just pouring out to Yahuwah all the time. We don't have time to do that these days with our busy schedules, you know? Like, I've got to go run somewhere later, and I'm sure you do. Well, you know, because it's Sabbath there for you, isn't it?
It is Sabbath, yeah. It's 1 in the morning, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So, but it's peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in a house with floorboards, so it's nice to not hear that running around your feet. So.
Yeah, well, you probably woke somebody up just then.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he woke me up several times last night, talking in my heart about, you know, some of the things about this, what I was just telling you about walking on water, and, you know, the zodiac being in his temple. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the zodiac being in his temple? Come on.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. It's insane, isn't
It really is when you think about the nuttiness of it.
it? Well, that's wonderful, brother.
You think you have enough material for this week?
I think I've got enough, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm out of questions and I'm out of material, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry we had trouble yesterday, but I thought this worked out well
It's
for
fine.
me. And
Mm.
you want to do this day of the week every week, because if you do, my schedule will fit better.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because then I can sleep in a bit because it's Sabbath.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to work.
Sleep till 9, 9:30, 10,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Wonderful. So,
Well,
yeah.
maybe one day I'll get to come down there and see you. And if I've made it kind of not a personal vow or anything, but if I ever leave this place, I'm not coming back. So wherever I go, I'm staying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, so if you see me show up, I'm not coming. I'm leaving. I'm staying where you are. I'm going to be there with you.
Yeah.
And that would be a lovely thing.
Oh, yeah. That was great what you said about the Natharan radio station. That'd be or a TV studio. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, we could just say, well, if they won't let us use theirs, we'll just have to have one of our own. I mean, what did it say? It's the beginning of Psalm 24. The earth belongs to Yahuwah and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it.
Mm.
So, he's got a radio station that's probably about to go out of business, and we can probably just swoop in there. And if there was some donor that was wealthy enough, they could just say, Lou, I'm going to pay off your building, and let's get over here to Malakuta and open that radio station. Let's do it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
This stuff that I've got is not going to go with me.
Yeah.
And whatever a person has isn't going to go with them. Except what they've stored in their hearts. And if we can get the outsiders in, then we can show the master when he returns, look what I did with your mina. I've got these other 5 people here.
Yeah.
And that's, or 10 or more. So let's keep sowing the seed, and the seed is the 10 Commandments. So that's all we need to. It's that simple, really. Because that's the core of what the dragon hates.
Yeah.
It's the marriage vows, the covenant. Marriage covenant is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
so I guess I'll see you then this same time next week.
Yeah, will do.
Okay.
Thanks for all that today, brother. It's wonderful.
Well, praise Yahusha. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, did you know that Yahusha came to this earth and died on a torture stake so that you and I can have everlasting life?
If you get immersed into his name, you will be washed clean of all the filth of this world. All the guilt and shame will go, and you can have a clean slate.
The end of the world is almost upon us, but those in a loving covenant with Yahusha can have no fear, because when the fire comes upon this world they will be kept safe.
So what the hell are you waiting for? Aren't you sick and tired of this world and its madness? All of the perverse mindsets, slaving away in a wicked system, feeling like death.
Come into Israel now before the door is shut and you burst into flames with the rest of this unrepentant world. This is Captain Netzori, saying repent, for the reign of Yahuwah is at hand. Please think about your life, and imagine being allowed to live forever. Shalom and bye-bye.
People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. cold.